Flames Nation, 3 games in 13 days, and by the hair on our chinny chin chin, we have kept our 0. We've kept the undefeated streak alive, and our Flames are 7-0, and we have so much that we're going to jump into and dive into and talk about this evening, and there's no one else I'd rather talk all things Flames football, all things Liberty football, than the man who is all things a sea of red, John Manson. John, it was a late night on the mountain for you. I feel like that game was about 4.5 hours long. How we feeling?
Man, we're feeling good. 7-0. Woo! Like our guy Ray over here is saying.
Woo!
He gets us started every week just like that. So we're feeling good. It was a late night, and I think it's partly due to some officiating. I mean, we had 3-minute reviews on just about every play call, but hey, I'm not one that likes to complain about the refs, and we got out of there with the win. That's the most important thing. We said that a few weeks ago after the Sam Houston game, survive in advance. As long as you got that 0 on the end of your name, you just keep
Zach
moving.
Green here. Good to be calling in. I just wanted to call and ask if.
No, 100%. Kept the 0, and as Coach Chadwell said in his post-game interview, an ugly win is better than a beautiful loss. And I completely agree with that. That sentiment holds true. Yes, there are some things that we will sit here tonight and go, all right, there's some things that absolutely can be better, things that have to get better. And I think we can take comfort in knowing that it has been better. We have seen the defense step up, make big-time plays in big-time situations, and just tonight was not that night. John, what are your thoughts on some of that we saw less than 24 hours ago?
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting game. I think it all started off with, the whole melee with Caden Salter, not having the right helmet, first play of the game, and that led to, running out there, sprinting out there onto the field, kind of in a little bit of, craziness, and he sent the guy in motion, as he talked about after the game, and didn't get him all the way through, and had to snap the ball before the delay of game, and then he misread the coverage and didn't put the ball right on Aaron Bedgood, which he was open. He kind of lobbed it up there, allowed the defender to kind of slide in underneath of it and get the interception. But anyways, it was, that kind of started the snowball going the wrong way, if you wanted to say it that way, because, Middle Tennessee gets the ball at the 23-yard line, I believe it was. 3 plays later, it's 7-0, and you're kind of like, what just happened? But, ultimately, at the end of the day, the defense got the job done. They struggled through 3 quarters, I think we can say. But in the fourth quarter, they got 4 straight stops when Middle Tennessee had the ball with a chance to tie or maybe even take the lead. They decided to go for 2. And they got the stop, got the job done, got 2 interceptions, and the offense did what they needed to do throughout the night. And what can we say about the offensive line? The running game, 401 rushing yards, FBS record for the program, number 5 overall rushing total for the team all time. So just a great ground game, but that's kind of become the normal for the team this season.
No, I completely agree. And I know a lot of the points they had came off of the turnovers, which is we have not seen a ton of turnovers from Liberty this year, but it's very tough to have your defense come in and make a stop when a team has that momentum coming off of being hyped, doing all the celebrations and stuff. I'm not going to sit here and shotgun Kool-Aid tonight because I don't think there's anything to shotgun. But there are some obvious issues that, as I mentioned, we saw last night. Now, we just had some great stats on the screen for those who are watching live. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you like, subscribe. For those who are watching in the future, please do the same. If you're listening, we'll give you a quick rundown. In Liberty's College Football Power Index, currently 64th in the nation, slipped 6 spots, probably due to last night, but 64 is still enough for us to be at the top of the Conference USA rankings, about 21 points ahead of Western Kentucky, putting Conference USA 9th overall. John, what are your thoughts? Surprised? Should we have slipped a couple spots? What are your thoughts on the entire conference?
Yeah, a lot of the computer rankings, including FPI, is kind of based on expected outcomes. Liberty was a 14.5 favorite. I think it slid up to 16 right before kickoff, and winning by 7. It's expected to see your computer numbers drop slightly. So that's not surprising. WKU dropped 2 spots after their loss, which we'll talk about them in their game against Jack State a little bit later. But that was an entertaining game. Went down to the end, but. A fun night. It's a fun night ongoing right now as we're currently recording live Wednesday night with FIU and Sam Houston playing, as well as New Mexico State and UTEP coming up later. But I think, Richie, we also opened it up to some voicemails, and I think we got a couple. I don't know if we want to play at least one of those now and get some reaction. I haven't heard the voicemail yet.
What's up, guys? Zach Green here. Good to be calling in. I just wanted to call and ask if you guys think at all that the defensive scheme is at all to blame for the lack of a pass rush. I know we've had a lot of turnover on the defense. We've got some young guys out there. Kendi was out for a lot of the beginning of the season. Body's been out for the last few weeks. So those are probably the main reasons I would have to guess. But do you think at all that there's anything defensively in the scheme that contributes to there not being a great pass rush? Anyways, thanks, guys. Go Flames. Flames over everybody.
Well, first off, thank you for the call. Definitely check out Twitter. We put that number out often. And as Bryman Hunter said, I think a big part of that, and I'm not going to pretend to know X's and O's and schemes like our man Kyle Diarman, but that quarterback pressure piece is important. We have great secondary play, but it's those pieces up front. It was a question going in to the season. We know we had Kendi Charles was out for a little bit in the beginning, but he's starting to play again. I heard his name a little bit in the fourth quarter, and I think a big part of it, and Chadwell mentioned it, is that conditioning, is the training. Because what do we call the fourth quarter, John?
It's the Flames quarter. Get them LUs up, baby.
It's the Flames quarter. Is it that I'm not even going to try to do it. Too much going on. But it is good to know, like, hey, when the game is on the line, it's twice now. This defensive group has made a stop when it's needed. So, John, I'm going to defer to you to the X's and O's of it. But I do think that the quarterback pressure and getting some movement out of that front seven is going to be a big part of it.
And I do think that's really one of the team's weaknesses this year is the lack of being able to get pressure. And it's crazy to think that, because last year it was the team's strength. I mean, we led the country in TFLs. Jarrell Johnson individually led the country in TFLs. And of course, he's with the Cowboys on their practice squad right now, and a very talented player. But there are other losses that we had in the portal and to graduation. And I think the injuries could, Kendi and Body missing some time, and Body did get in briefly last night, but those guys are interior guys. They're not really the guys you're typically wanting to pressure the quarterback. Now, anything that they can do is an added bonus. But I think, I think there's two main things, and I'll try to keep this quick because I think we got another voicemail we want to get to after this. But I think two main things kind of play into it. Yes, the scheme does play into it a little bit. I don't think we do a ton of blitzing. We typically do 3 or 4 down linemen that are coming after the quarterback. And last year that worked really well. This year we don't seem to have as many guys beating their linemen in that one-on-one or even 2-on-1 coverage or blocking schemes. So I think that's part of it. And you got young guys. TJ Bush, a true freshman on one side. CJ Bazile, he's a sophomore, could technically be a redshirt freshman. He didn't play a ton last year. So almost 2 freshmen basically out there playing a ton of snaps on those in positions. So they should be getting better as the season goes on. We're now about into the back half of the schedule. So they should be getting better, but it's just more reps. And it's been a bend but don't break defense too, and it's worked so far. But I do think that's a big question mark going into this Western Kentucky game with Austin Reed and their passing attack. Is we can't allow him to sit back there all day and be able to pick apart the defense. And the secondary has been playing lights out, even despite the fact of there not being much pressure, if any pressure, on the quarterback. So I do think it's some scheme, but also some personnel, and they'll get there. I'm not worried about it. But anyways, let's get to voicemail 2.
Yes.
Second question, St. Looney again. I was just curious, did you all see anything wrong with that punt last night from Max that made it basically be a 12, 13-yard punt? It kind of took an awkward bounce there then, but I didn't know if you all happened to see anything up close and personal that would have caused it to take that spin.
So, as a former punter myself, there is a bit of luck that does go into it. The ball was not struck incredibly well. However, the way it hit, and I'd have to go back and watch the replay again, you get those punts that when it turns over, nose and it rolls. At the same time, you get those punts that nose and go backwards. It's like if you're just an average golfer, you're not putting the spin on the ball, and you just hit it wrong, and next thing you know, it sticks and then comes back. It's just so much, just the way the physics hits. Again, it was not an incredibly well struck ball. It's tough punting around out of your own end zone, but I don't think there were many other situations this year where I can remember him having a terrible punt. The fact that I don't know his full name off the top of my head probably is a good thing. Morgan? Is it Morgan?
Yeah, it's Max Morgan.
Max Morgan.
There's a few positions that if you don't know their name, it's a good thing. Your punter, your long snapper, your holder. Those are positions you don't really want to know their names. But yeah, I mean, Max has had a good season. He didn't have a great night last night. I think, I can't remember if he had 2 or 3 punts. It wasn't a ton, but it seemed like every one of his punts, the balls were taking bad bounces, bouncing backwards rather than getting the forward roll, which typically this season he's done a good job getting those forward rolls. So that one punt that was 12 or 13 yards, part of that was due to the bad bounce, the ball bouncing backwards 15 yards probably, but I think that ball only traveled, I don't know, 30 yards in the air, if that. I mean, he didn't hit the ball well. I don't know if it went off the side of his foot or he misstepped as he was going into it. I don't know what happened exactly, but it was just a bad night for him. I kind of chalked that up. You have those type of nights, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. He's been consistent throughout the year, so you're allowed a bad night. So we'll give it to him. Unfortunately, it did not cost the team.
Absolutely. One last thing for that. What people don't realize that, on special teams, that special teams coach is giving you something to do. They're telling you, like, we need a kick with a bunch of hang time to the left. That's where we're going to be bringing the pressure, to the right, or we need a line drive. So things change. It's not the same. It's not just punt the ball as far as you can every single week. So there are stuff that is different. I'm not going to pretend to know what's going on in the locker room, in the special teams locker room, but shout out Nick Brown, hit all of his extra points yesterday. So he's gotten some nonsense online. So shout out to him. One got tipped. It is what it is. Again, if you are joining us this evening or if it's in the future, make sure you like, subscribe. It means a lot. It helps us out a bunch. It gets what we're saying and what we're doing spread out to more Liberty fans across the country and across the world. And we're actually able to take a couple Liberty fans, both a player and a fan, staff member turned announcer, and they get to talk and chat with y'all each week about what happened. So we are going to bring in Mr. Jason Porter and Mr. Brendan Schlittler.
Hello, gentlemen.
Hey, B.
John, you live?
We can see you, John.
Brendan, Jason, how we doing tonight?
Good, how are you?
Doing great.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Hey, Brendan, Jason, how we doing tonight?
Doing great.
well.
Thanks. Oops. Hey, Brendan, I'll tell you what, I'll start while John's working on some stuff. How about that?
Perfect.
Congrats on the big one last night, man. That was really quite a come from behind there. And anytime we get these tale of two halves, I think you can sort of call it that and chalk it up to that. I know you obviously don't walk around the locker room completely, but I would love to know what the discussions were at halftime, because Coach Chadwell was vocal coming off the field talking to Nick Pierce in the halftime interview going in. But what kind of adjustments and what kind of things did you guys talk about at halftime last night?
Yeah, as far as an offensive perspective, it was just control the controllables and just stick with what we're doing. Obviously, got to clean a few things up, turnovers, but the offensive line just had to keep staying consistent and doing what they were doing no matter what happened with any other position. Made some adjustments offensively obviously they were going to make adjustments at halftime too. Defensively, got on the guys a little bit. Obviously, they've been super great in the fourth, and he said we're a second half team. We know it's going to happen. We just got to make it go happen. So he got on him for sure. I don't know what he said to Nick, but there was some words said. But he did a great job getting them boys adjusted.
And Brendan, it seems like, almost every week, this offensive line is just, punishing these opposing teams, these Conference USA opponents. Last night, there was multiple times where, the running backs getting the ball, whoever the running back is, Quentin Cooley, Billy Lucas, James Joyner, Bedgood, Salter, whoever, and it's 4 or 5 yards before they're even greeted by a defender. Is that something you were seeing? Is it seem like the offensive line is just getting a great push, and is that something that they've maybe taken a big step up in terms of that type of production this season compared to the past few years?
Yeah, there's no doubt that what they're doing right now hasn't happened in a while, and I think from the public, the offensive line is perceived to be the reason the run game is great, and they're a huge reason that they are. But our tight ends are blocking their butts off. That's another blocker in there, and if they get killed by a DN, the whole play's over. Bentley, Austin, all those guys are blocking their tails off right now, and that's a huge difference. The way the running backs are running, James, Billy, Cooley are all just toting the rock. You have guys like that run like the way they do. That makes the O-line want to push a little harder. So you have that. It's a huge combination, but they've been running really well. And I know they're so hungry for more. So it'll be cool to see what we can finish out the season with and see how much better they continue to get.
Yeah, Brendan, going in 7-0 here is just an incredible mark. I mean, I don't know that any of us could have been prophetic at the beginning of the season to think this, or certainly not speak it out loud, but it's been an amazing start here. You talk about kind of the next man up in all the positions. That's always the typical cliche and stuff. But I want to take that one step further just a little bit and to just kind of get into some of the depth charts here with different guys, especially when you get into this 7-game mark, a little bit past halfway now. Injuries start to mount. Again, the old athletic trainer in me comes out a little bit. How much of this really do you get into the position by committee, next man up, but more importantly, just kind of the team cheerleader by position, where everybody's just, pulling the same way or rowing the same way, whatever you want to say. But What's the camaraderie like right now and the chemistry to just realize that, man, everybody's in it for the same thing?
The way I see it is everyone's a puzzle piece, and there's 5 pieces that fit together for a puzzle. And it could be different pieces, but they're going to make the same picture every time. I think the most unique part about the offensive line group that we have this year is the versatility. There's guys, I don't think there's a single guy that can't play most positions. So you look at example, Gadlin, that he can play all 5 positions. Jordan White can play middle 3. All the tackles can play both tackles. They can switch around all they need to. So, injuries happen, guys get tired, long drives, whatever, something happens during the game. They're not missing a beat, and there's no tendencies on who's in and what's happening. Like, it's just been consistent the whole way through. And they know it's going to be like that, and they're all good sports about their role.
Well, for those watching online, or you can see Brendan's got the RT Rogers hat going on, and you can also see RT Rogers Oil Company, their banner there on the bottom of the screen, and telephone number. Brendan, tell everybody who RT Rogers is and how to get in contact with him.
Yes, sir. RT Rogers is an oil company based out of southern West Virginia. Their main area is Southwest Virginia and Southeast West Virginia, selling fuel, lubricants, tanks, and equipment. Greg Rogers, owner from Liberty grad, and a couple years ago, and he does a great job delivering to all states around West Virginia. And the link is below for any oil needs coming up with the winter.
Awesome. Thanks, Brendan, and thanks, Mr. Rogers, for sponsoring See You Red and this podcast and this portion of the podcast. Brendan, one cool play that we got to see on Billy Lucas's touchdown run, we saw the walk-on Rick Weaver come in and made a nice block, and he just pile-drived whoever he was blocking and knocked him 5 yards into the end zone. Give us a little bit of insight into Rick, maybe a guy that some Liberty fans might not be as familiar with, walk-on, former wrestler, and now he's kind of finishing up his college career on the gridiron.
So this is a little bit of a long story. So Rick came to us, I think in the spring, and his power, he's a really, really good wrestler. I'm pretty sure he's like a national contender for club sports, and lost very few matches. So he's super strong and super hard to block at times. And we knew he was super powerful. So long story short, the staff was like, this guy has something in him. We want to keep him. But you go into fall camp, the numbers are crunching. You have to have a certain amount of guys each position. They're playing logistical analytics stuff, and they're trying to figure out a way to get him on the team. So Rick had to switch to offensive line for fall camp to stay on the team. So as you see, we see, Gadlin and Graham pulling all the time. Well, Rick had to do that in practice, and he was knocking guys flat on their tail day after day. And so we knew that he could lay the boom. So we saw how Middle Tennessee structured the defense on the goal line, and the coaches are like, I think we got a shot to throw Rick in there. Like, the way they structure it, we can motion him in and have him blow up a small linebacker. So they figured it out, and first chance they got on the goal line, they let him do it, and he smoked the dude. So that was a walk-in touchdown. He's an awesome kid, though. I mean, he works his tail off and been a good sport since day one. I'm excited to see this goal line package continue to grow. Maybe
we'll see a play designed to throw a little jump pass to him or something like that, get him in the end zone and catch the ball. But no, that was fun to see, and Liberty kid through and through, and like you said, he Liberty wrestler for most of his career, and now is finishing up on the gridiron. Defensive lineman primarily, but getting in some work. I didn't know he was doing some work with the offensive line during camp. But hey, Brendan, appreciate you joining us as always. Congrats on your part that you've done, even though not on the field. I know you've been a vital part to this team's success so far this season, getting out to 7-0, and hopefully we can get Western this week and get to 8-0. Thanks, man, for joining us.
Amen. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thanks, Pete.
So, Jason, tell me a little bit about HOAs. How can they affect investment properties?
Yeah, great question. One of the things that we have to do, running numbers, speaking of analytics, but on the real estate side of things, whenever we've got investors, we always want to take a look at how those numbers work on your returns. And specifically in HOAs, a lot of people choose to do townhouses or something along those lines. It's an easy entry point into investment properties. And so one of the things that you want to look at is what the HOA is for that property. The HOA makes a lot of sense sometimes because it rolls in some of your expenses with water, maintenance, certainly like landscaping, things along those lines. So while the HOA can be a benefit, it also cuts into your ROI every month, your return on investment. And so whether the HOA is $90 or $150 or more, sometimes depending on where you are, you need to factor that into investment properties into your overall equation. And it's something that we navigate all the time. And we've got a variety of HOAs around the Lynchburg area here, as probably a lot of our listeners do in their real estate markets, but something worth keeping in mind when you're looking at the bottom line for an investment property.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason. Appreciate your support of Liberty Athletics as a whole, but also a Sea of Red and this podcast. And look forward to listening to you on the call with AY there in the future as well. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, John.
Virginia's best and most flames-friendly coffee comes from Ironclad Coffee Roasters. Ironclad Roasting serves up their beautiful beans at 2 cafes in Richmond, where you can enjoy their craft roasted specialty beans from anywhere in the country by visiting www.ironcladcoffee.com. Place your order there, and it will be directly shipped to your doorstep. Whenever you find yourself in the capital of the Commonwealth, pay them a visit at one of the 2 cafes in the Richmond area. Ironclad's owners, the O'Rourke family, are proud Flames Club members and season ticket holders, and now they're pleased to sponsor the podcast from Sea of Red. Hop over to www.ironcladcoffee.com now to get your Virginia's best specialty coffee headed your way.
What's up, guys? It's Zach, and I'm hyped to be on the ASOR pod live for the first time all season to give y'all the Liberty Athletics recap. Let's get right into it. Women's soccer went 2-0 last week, defeating Jacksonville State 2-1 and UTEP 2-1. They will face Western Kentucky at home this Saturday. The Lady Flames are 13-1-1 on the year, 4-1-1 in conference play, and are second currently in the Conference USA standings. Men's soccer also went undefeated. They went 1-0-1 on the week, defeating Eastern Illinois in their first shutout victory of the year, beating them 4-0, and they tied Southern Indiana 1-1. They will host Lindenwood on Thursday and Incarnate Word on Sunday for their final 2 home games. They are currently 8-4-1 overall, 3-2-1 in the OVC, and they are third in the conference. Volleyball finished 2-0 last week, sweeping Jacksonville State, who improved to 10-10 overall and 3-5 in Conference USA play. They will return home to face FIU this Friday and Saturday. Field hockey, they're still on the best start in school history. They are defeating, now Richie can correct me if I'm saying this wrong, but Quinnipiac 2-1, and that school from Harrisonburg 3-2 last week. They're 14-1, 5-0 in Big East play. Already clinched a spot in the Big East Championship tournament. They will face conference rival UConn Friday night for their final home game. Both cross-country teams finished 20th overall at the pre-national meet up at UVA this past weekend. Adeline Fairley had an impressive finish, placing 16th overall, and they will both compete in the Conference USA Championship meet next weekend in Bowling Green, Kentucky. The men's 8K will start at Saturday morning at 10 a.m., and the women's 6K will begin at 11 a.m. And obviously, last but certainly not least, football defeated Middle Tennessee last night 42-35 to improve to 7-0 on the year. They're going to face preseason Conference USA favorite Western Kentucky next Tuesday in Bowling Green. Check this out. Football 7-0. Men's soccer is 8-4-1. Women's soccer is 13-1-1. Volleyball is 10-10. Field hockey is 14-1. That's an overall record of 52-23-2. Liberty Athletics, I mean, you can't watch a better program in Virginia right now. Overall, athletics-wise, it's fun to watch. And that's all for your Liberty Sports Recap.
Well.
How we
It's time
doing?
to talk. How am I doing? Did you see my record last week? Did you see
I
my
sure did.
record last week?
I sure did.
absolute last year. Richard Longshott's bad this. He's not good at gambling. Why would anyone tune into a podcast to listen to a guy that doesn't know about gambling? I kept all the receipts like Coach Prime, and your boy is having a banner season. Tune into any Barstool gambling podcast. And I love all those guys. But they're just not good at gambling. I'm not saying I'm good at gambling. I'm just saying right now, this year, with these picks, I'm good at gambling. So I'm going to enjoy my Kool-Aid. I'm not going to call anyone out individually, but I know who you are. I know the people that were chirping me in the comments and saying stuff in Twitter messages. I know it. I'm there. I heard it all. I see it all. And CT, what a great week you did. Game recognizes game. Good things happen to good people.
No doubt.
Fill us in with how you did.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna focus on this next week as well. But I mean, 4-1. I was really happy with it. We did great all around. Rutgers. I mean, if they didn't let Michigan State score 24, I could have been 5-0. But oh well. JMU Fay didn't work. That's disappointing. I'm not counting that on my record. We tried, but nothing could be done. So.
And that's okay. Sometimes you got to have a good fade. Try to change the juju up. It is what it is. A lot of the games I told you, I liked all of them. Some of them, I actually bet on some of them, and they worked out well. The Washington was an absolute game of the year potential. Lived up to the billing. Penix, I told you Penix was my guy. I said this week 1. I was like, Penix is the dude. I have to go back and I look last year, but he is going to be an absolute baller for them. And they're in the driver's seat to go to the college football playoffs, which is crazy to see. Notre Dame, not even
Pac-12
close.
is still going to beat up on themselves, so I'm a little nervous for them. Especially, I feel like you don't want to be the Heisman favorite in mid-October, but he definitely looks the real deal for sure.
Speaking of Heisman, USC, turns out, might actually stink. You were on the right side there. That was a blowout. It was ugly.
That was unreal.
But poor guy, hate to see it. But we're on to a new week. You're going to try to keep the momentum going. I already lost. We already both lost the Liberty game for last week, but that's okay. Sometimes you got to learn how to lose before you can win. So what do you got for us this week? You might want to tail this guy because he's hot.
Yeah, tail both of us, and hopefully it goes well. So we'll jump right into it. First of all, Air Force at Navy. Great game, great service academy game. Air Force, really good. Maybe one of our top G5 competitors right now.
Yep.
But ultimately, Air Force, they're 11-point favorites. Total is at 37.5. It is dropping as well. I think it's already below that, but can't make the graphics live on air or anything like that. So I got 37.5. Basically,
just to jump in real quick. Air
Yeah.
Force's quarterback is hurt, out for a while.
Yes.
So
the backup did
definitely
win them the game at the end of the game, but it does seem like a drop off. We've talked about before service academies, 2 touchdowns, things like that. We're not there yet, but when service academies play each other, always take the under. Doesn't matter the number, take the under. So that's what we're doing there. Next game, we're going Memphis at UAB. We're jumping back on the UAB fade bandwagon. I said at the beginning of the season that I was going to fade them often, and I am, and I'm going to keep on doing it. Memphis has way too much talent. They're going to win this game by at least 2 touchdowns. I don't think UAB has a chance.
No, and Dilfer's out here like coaching, choking players. Like God knows what's going on at UAB right now.
Exactly. Tennessee at Alabama. This should be a really good one. 2 teams that have taken steps back from last year. I've faded Tennessee a couple times. I had Florida money line a few weeks ago. That was great. And I think this is another spot to fade them. Joe Milton is not it at quarterback. Of course, Alabama has their struggles, but they're still a step above Tennessee this year, and they're probably going to want some revenge after that insane game last year. As well, when you have 2 ranked teams, the home team is higher ranked, but they're a single-digit favorite that hits at 72% on the spread. So I'm taking Alabama with the points, and that number is moving in my favor as well. Next one, Duke at Florida State. Another really good game, really out of nowhere. I don't know Riley Leonard's status in this one, so that's a question mark. And Florida State, they're 2 touchdown favorites, total at 49. I'm taking the under. One, Duke has a good run defense. When Florida State has played teams that have a good run defense, they have struggled a little bit. They've looked great all season, but the couple times, like think Boston College, when there was a good run defense, they struggled. And then Duke as well. Again, if they don't have Riley Leonard, I think that's going to be difficult for them. Finally, another stat, when you have 2 ranked teams, but the home team is a double-digit favorite, the under hits 73% of the time. And then moving on, I know you said, is USC garbage? I'm nervous, but I'm taking them. They are 7-point favorites at home against Utah. Now, granted, I don't know the status of Cam Rising. Regardless, if he's playing, I don't care if he's playing. I don't care if he's not. This number is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
After USC has looked for the past 3 or 4 weeks, compared to how Utah has looked, and then especially the USC Notre Dame game, I don't know how USC is 7-point favorites. I'm going to lay it because it makes no sense. I am
you got to zag. Yeah. If it makes no sense, it makes no sense for a reason. It doesn't make so much sense that it makes sense.
I am terrified about having to lay 7 points with their defense, along with the how am I completely blanking right now on their quarterback? Caleb Williams. Gosh. Caleb Williams wants to own an NFL team, so I'm terrified about that as well, but give me USC -7, and we'll just say a prayer that it hits. And then finally, I just threw together a little bonus money line parlay. Let's just have some fun with it this week. I was going to do another JMU fade, but we're going to stay away from that. Hopefully, we can have better luck elsewhere. So we got 6 teams in this one. Ohio State, I was nervous to lay the points with them. I do think they win in that game, so I'm putting them money line in the parlay. Memphis, we touched on them. West Virginia, they're playing against Oklahoma State. West Virginia has an amazing rushing attack. No Big 12 team has any defense to stop a rushing attack. Give me West Virginia. Bama, we hit on that. San Diego State, they're playing Nevada. Nevada's on like a 17-game losing streak. Give me San Diego State. And then UCLA is playing against Stanford. No way Stanford gets 2 upsets in a row after that crazy win. Put all those together, you got a nice little plus 500 parlay.
I love it. West Virginia, Neil Brown saved his job. Everyone thought he'd be donezo by October, but shout out to him. Good for him turning that program around. All right. We have and you can see our records from last week. Good week for everyone. Everyone went above 500. Yep. John, right in the ship, 6-3, turning it back. Yes, 8-1, not a big deal. There's room for improvement. But our guest picker, Colby, went 5-4, which leads us to our new guest picker of the week. And you can see our records for the week.
Yep.
Decent.
Yeah, Richie, you're flying above the rest of us, plus 13 units. Absolutely incredible. John and I, we're just hoping to get in the green for the season at this point.
Well, there's a lot of time left, and I have not gotten off to a good start this week with the games going on now and last night. But we have our guest picker. You can see our guest picker standings right now. We got Sam Stone in first. Colby slipped into second place when you look at the amount of units, going 5-4. And we're going to bring on a man you just heard, a man you hear every week, and that is Zeke. Zach, call him whatever you want to call him. Mr. 71 and under 71 to give us his picks this week. Now, there's 3 games going on now, so there's really not much for us to talk about other than the fact that FIU is up 7. Sam Houston's got the ball, so I think we could probably jump in and start with the team everyone's afraid to talk about.
Yeah. What's up, guys? How y'all doing?
I'm great, Zeke. Sorry, I just rolled right past you.
Oh, no problem at all. I took FIU plus 5.5 in this game. Honestly, the big reason for that was I need them to win 4 games so their season over hits. But also, they are 2-1 against the spread as a road underdog this year. They seem to play better on the road, and I mean they're up 7 right now in the 4th. So hopefully they can hold on there for the win. I have no idea what I was thinking picking the under for the Liberty game, but I had Liberty money line. That's all that matters, but we all make mistakes.
There you go.
That was a big one.
That was dead at half. But it is what it is. You live and you learn. And CT, you mentioned you were fading JMU last week. It's not a lock, but you're fading it this week.
Yeah, exactly. So it didn't work in the lock, so I figured why not here. I also saw all y'all on Marshall. I would have been on Marshall, but we can't have all of us on Marshall in that situation. That would not be good at all. So I'm taking another one for the team. I'm taking JMU to win again. There's no way they lose. There's no way they don't go 7-0. They're the best team in the country. So give me JMU money line.
How can you argue with that logic? We heard your thoughts, CT, already on Air Force -11. Zeke and I were on the same page. What are you feeling with that? It's not pretty. Anytime you got an over/under in the 30s, and there's a couple this week. Zeke, what are you feeling about this troop, one of the troop bowls?
I was this close to taking Navy with the points. Fun fact: the first college game I actually went to was a Navy game. My uncle was a grad for there, so I always root for the middies if I can. But like CT said earlier, when it's two service academies, triple option going against each other, you got to take the under. I think there's like 16 mile per hour winds too. Like the weather isn't really looking great, so I just can't see a lot of points. They know each other well. It's a rivalry game. And Navy struggles to score. I mean, they won last week 14-0, but they scored 14 points against Charlotte. So I think this could be like and I didn't even know, Richie, until you said it, that Air Force was without their quarterback. So that makes me even more confident in it. I think it'll be a low scoring game, and probably I wouldn't be surprised if Navy covers too.
Yeah, I will say as well, just to add, Air Force in their last 6 games at Navy, they're 1-5 against the spread. So
good little tidbit there.
Yeah.
This is what people are here for, the tidbits. Everyone loves a good tidbit. We have I'm not gonna say anything that's gonna get me canceled for this one. We have Penn State, Ohio State. I had something I was gonna say. I'm not gonna say it. Penn State against Ohio State. James Franklin's like 1-9 or 1-8 against teams in the top 10. Cool, you just beat UMass by 63. I don't think Ohio State is the fourth. I don't think they're the third best team in the country, but I do think it's at Ohio State. That place is going to be absolutely rocking. I just can't fathom James Franklin winning a big game like this.
I will say, I can see a world where Ohio State wins, but Penn State covers. Like it's like a 3-point game or something like that. What just happened?
Touchdown, Sam Houston State.
Let's go. There we go. We need that.
Live.
We need that.
This is what we're
another
rolling.
line that makes absolutely no sense. Why is Sam Houston favored by 5.5 points?
Nope.
Absolutely. I could go down with the ship. It didn't go well last week, but there's no world they should be favored by that many points.
No.
They're 0-6. They like to find ways to lose. I still have hope. Balls up.
Zeke, you're in on State Penn. Whoops, -4.5. Big fan of the Nittany Lions and everything that comes with that?
Not really. Honestly, I agree with CT. This is well, first of all, the main reason I did this was because, I'd like to be at the top of the standing. So you gotta pick a little different than the rest of the group each week. And I think Penn State has a really good team this year. I like their quarterback more than Ohio State, Aller over McCord. I think they're really solid overall, both teams, and it's just going to be one of those games that's like down to the wire. And like CT said, I could really see Ohio State winning, and I would probably lean Ohio State if I had to take a money line, but Penn State covering with like a field goal difference. They're 6-0 against the spread this year. I mean, hard to go against that, but it's on the road, in the horseshoe. It's a long shot, but I'm going for it.
And I will say as well, like for myself, I have Penn State futures to make the playoffs, to win the Big Ten.
Wow.
I know that doesn't make you happy, Richie, but I said before the season what was going to happen was Ohio State would beat Penn State would beat Michigan, and then Michigan would beat Ohio State. And they just kind of circle the wagons there.
And Iowa just storms into Indianapolis as the Big Ten West champions. You can't. It would make too much sense this year, but no, I could see them definitely splitting and having that nightmare scenario of all the Big Ten East. But no, Penn State's good this year. I'm not going to sit here and be a complete hater, but I just can they win that big game? Their schedule has been kind of soft this year. They did beat Iowa. Great. Not super impressed.
Put up
next
a lot
up,
of points on Iowa too.
They did. I'll give them that. Next up, we got Lane versus Hugh Freeze. This is going to be good. I don't know how this is all going to unfold, but I know that some coach is going to say something or do something during the game that's going to get everyone talking about it on Twitter. I don't know what time this game is, but it is it's appointment viewing. I think someone's going to try to run the score up on the other in some way, whether it's Ole Miss up big and they just keep scoring, or Auburn keeps trying to score even when they're down big. Something's going to happen. Every time I pick a game like this, and this is my rationale, the under hits. So I totally get where you're coming from, Zeke. I just have tiny little bird brain when it comes to games like this. Like, you give me Saban Kiffin, in my head, I'm like, over. Kiffin Freeze, over. It's going to be 14-3 going into the fourth quarter. So don't listen to me for this one. Listen to them. So what do you got?
Z, go ahead.
Well, this one was tough for me because, like you said, I mean, Kiffin and Freeze, the battle on Twitter could very well be better than the battle on the field. But
the Jimmy
I like
Sexton
the
Bowl.
under. I like the under because it's hit in all Ole Miss road games this year. There's only been 2, but they've scored 30 total points in their road games, which is less than their total in every home game this year, except for 1. And then Auburn, I mean, they've struggled to score a lot this year. Like, the quarterback play hasn't been all too great. And I know it's at Auburn, and I think it's going to be a good close game, but I think the under hits. That number is a little high for me. But if the over hits, I would not be shocked at all.
Absolutely. And for me, I mean, first of all, I was going to say that exact stat about Ole Miss on the road these games. As well, we know we've seen Hugh Freeze in these big games. We saw it with Georgia as well. One, he's going to play that game close to the fourth quarter. He's going to try to keep that game as close as possible, have it be a one-score game. As well, how many points can Auburn score? Just in general, like, regardless of their game plan, how many points can they score? So all those factors together, the over could hit, but I think it's really something that everything would have to go right for that over to hit. So I'm on the under.
Yeah, no, I'm throwing the analytics out the book this year. I'm just going with heart and what my tiny little bird brain says. Last game we talked about it a little bit already. USC, Utah. Last year, these teams faced off in the Pac-12 championship game, and I just looked it up. Utah hung 47 on them. This could very well be a get-right game for both teams. They're trying to make that push to get into the Pac-12 championship game. That they both know that, hey, another loss and the season's done. They can sneak into the Pac-12 championship game with one loss. So I think it's just both teams are going to just go for it, no rhyme or reason. Yeah, USC has a terrible offense, but they have a really terrible defense, but they have a really good offense. So I lean over. Why not over? It's an over kind of weekend. That's how I'm feeling.
I'm with you on the over. I think every time you see a USC game, you probably should bet the over.
Mm-hmm.
It's hit in every one of their games this year except one, and it's kind of, they're facing the polar opposite because Utah, the under, has hit in every game except one.
Mm-hmm.
But the way I see it is USC's defense is so bad that I think Utah is going to put up points, even though their offense has been pretty bad at times this year. And then USC, they kind of got shut down last week in Notre Dame, and I just can't see that happening again. Also, they're going to want to make a statement. And, I mean, let's be honest, they lost to Utah twice last year. They ruined their shot at a Pac-12 and college football playoff. So they're going to want to hang some points on them. They're at home. I'd be shocked if the over doesn't hit. But I've been wrong a lot. I mean, I picked the under for the Middle Tennessee Liberty game, so who knows? But I really like the over in this one.
It's okay. It's only gambling. It's only money. You get more every 2 weeks or on the 15th and 30th, depending on how your work handles all of that. But
Can't take it with
before,
them.
yeah. After these games on Saturday, we have a game of our own. It's the game of the year. I don't think anyone is going to sit here and pretend like it's not. This is the game that has been circled. And we are going into it 7-0, and we're going to bring in our main man, John Manson, to chat. John, unmute yourself. To chat about Tuesday, Liberty, 7-0, Western Kentucky, coming off a loss, which I didn't watch because I was just so tired after last night. I went, I'm going to bed. I don't care what happens in this game. It makes no bit of difference. And there's a lot on the line. We have pretty much the winner of this game is going to host the conference championship game. Yes, there's some other pieces that come, so don't start tweeting at me and complaining like, no. Likely, whoever wins this game is going to be hosting that conference championship game in December. And Western Kentucky has a high-profile offense. And if you are watching live, you can see on the screen they are led by one of the best quarterbacks in G5, and that is Austin Reed. They air it out. They sling it. They're averaging 30 points a game. Have some issues, giving up just under 28 points a game. But, John, give us a little breakdown of Western Kentucky. Talk about them on both sides of the ball. What can we expect to see from them Tuesday night?
Well, I mean, it definitely is. You kind of hit it there, Richie. It's the game of the season. This is the game we've been looking forward to all season, dating back to the summer. The top two preseason choices by everybody in Conference USA this year. Western Kentucky, the preseason favorite by everybody this year, and rightfully so. They had a lot of returning pieces and led obviously by Reed and looking at what Middle Tennessee just did to this Liberty defense, it definitely gives you some pause, right? I mean, if Vadiato can throw for 300 some odd yards, what's Reed gonna do Tuesday night at home? So I am concerned about that. I'm concerned about the lack of a pass rush, like we talked about earlier, that the Flames have had so far this season. They need some form of a pass rush Tuesday in Bowling Green. But I mean, it's interesting, and I want to ask you about this, CT, is what do you think about them getting that loss to Jacksonville State last night, and lost by field goal on the road late in the game? I think that was the last play of the game. I wasn't watching it live, obviously, at the Liberty game, but how does that play into this game? I mean, is it better to face a team coming off a win? Does this loss give WKU a little bit of added motivation? I mean, do they need added motivation? I mean, this game is a game both teams have had circle on their calendars all year, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. I will say, I will take any time they lose. That helps us in some regard, just in the overall standings. So that's a plus. But I honestly was rooting for them to win last night, and it's for that exact reason. Of course, they've had this game circled on their calendar, just like we have. But at the same time, they're going to have a little extra something. In every single one of their practices this week, they're going to have a little extra something because of that result, because of that loss. And they're going to come into this game even more fired up. So I would much rather have them coming into a game where they're have a little bit of a winning streak. They're feeling a little bit confident about themselves. I think that's what happened to Jacksonville State when we played them. They had kind of a lot of confidence. Things were going well for them, and then it fell off. And then they bounced back after their loss. So it definitely makes me nervous that they lost. I would rather them be coming off a win. But ultimately, as you said, both teams have had this circled on their calendar since last summer. And it's just going to be an amazing game all around.
Yeah, I'm not totally shocked that both teams struggled last night because you could sit here and pretend like it wasn't, but it was clearly a trap game for both teams. Jacksonville State obviously a little bit better than Middle Tennessee State, but big time trap game where both teams knew that this upcoming Tuesday is the first of what's probably going to be two matchups against them. One of the things that is new to us, it's new to conference play, is you're getting every team's best game. So Zeke, what are your thoughts on it? Do you think last night and some of the other games we've had are teams getting up for Liberty? Obviously, again, I'm not going to pretend like we didn't play well, but with conference play, we're not going to see teams just roll over. We're going to get teams' best shots every week. And what are your thoughts so far with conference play and just getting to enjoy that as a fan of Liberty?
Oh, 100%. I mean, like you mentioned, we were the second favorite in the preseason. So, of course, teams are going to give us their best shot. And being in a conference, the games mean so much more because you can come into the season conference play 0-4 and you don't have a loss in conference play and you can still make a special season out of it. I don't know. And it makes it more fun as a fan because a game against Middle Tennessee in the middle of the year now means a whole lot more than it did when we faced them in 2021, even though that was a homecoming game. As for last night, I think it was definitely a little extra added motivation just because Middle Tennessee, they can only lose one more game to still be bowl eligible. Now they have to win out to do that. And they had a tough non-conference schedule facing Bama and Missouri, but I think they were playing for their bowl eligibility last night. And, you get a win over Liberty. You still have one loss to spare. You're feeling pretty good about yourself the rest of the way. And they played really well last night, but I don't know. We're definitely going to get every team's best shot, and conference play just makes it so much more fun. Just every week means so much more, and now it's to host. I mean, we could very well host this championship game, especially if we win next Tuesday. I mean, I don't want to say it's guaranteed, but it's looking pretty nice.
No, great point, Zeke. And a win Tuesday by Liberty over WKU not only gives Liberty a 2-game lead on Western Kentucky, but really it's a 3-game lead because now the Flames have that head-to-head tiebreaker. And with only 2 games left in conference play for Liberty after that game, they've already clinched over WKU as far as hosting. And I'll go as far as to say that a win by Liberty at Western Kentucky all but guarantees not only Liberty will be in the conference championship game, but they'll be the host because, like I just said, Western Kentucky is not going to surpass the Flames anymore. The only team you have to worry about is New Mexico State. Liberty's already got 1-game lead on them and has the tiebreaker against the Aggies who will be playing later tonight against UTEP in a tough game. And then New Mexico State still has to play Western Kentucky. So they got a lot of tough games still ahead of them. So I expect them to lose at least one more game, if not 2. So, that game Tuesday in Bowling Green is not only for bragging rights, not only to remain unbeaten, but it's to all but lock up a home game in the conference championship game. Can you imagine that? Friday night, December 1st, Liberty in the first year in the FBS conference getting to play at home for a conference championship. I get ahead of myself with a national championship talk, but a conference championship. That's next year. We are on the board. We are on the board.
Circa had us on the board. Not to interrupt, but when I saw that today, I'm like, we're on the board. Not many teams are on the board.
What was there, like 14 people on the board? 14 teams?
So
something like that?
Circa put out their most updated college football national championship odds. And yes, obviously, I am in no way, shape, or form saying that I think Liberty is going to win the national championship. However, they did not put all 133 FBS teams on that thing.
There are 26 teams. There are 26 teams on the board. Thanks, producer 3000. And Liberty's the only one from the Commonwealth of Virginia on the board.
Yes. It doesn't help that one team is ineligible. Marshall probably can't. Liberty's odds, I think, were 5,000 to 1, or was it 50,000 to 1?
I think it's 50,000 to 1, but I'd have
50,000 to 1. You just put a little sprinkle on it. See what happens. I'm not going to do it because I don't think
that's where my next paycheck's going.
Yeah.
Student loans gone.
Yeah, just like that. Snap. A little Thanos action. But no, I would never bet that because I don't think I would survive a college football playoff win. Like, that'd be it for me. I'm not coming back from that. Like, we're going to have to need some good doctors to revive me. A little bit of Lazarus. That was the guy that raised in the Bible, right?
Yes.
I'd have to get Lazarus. I'd have to
Yeah.
get Lazarus if we ever won a college football playoff game. So no, I'm not going to bet it, but it is cool to see. We're in the hunt. Producer 3000, do we have the Conference USA standings?
I didn't see that graphic on there, but Liberty's the only one unbeaten in conference play right now at 5-0.
The path is there.
Yeah, the path is there. New Mexico State has one loss. Jacksonville State has one loss, but again, they're ineligible for the conference championship game and eligible for a bowl game. And then, so you got 3 teams with one loss: Jacksonville State, New Mexico State, and here you go. Jacksonville State, New Mexico State, and Western Kentucky, all with one loss, and the rest of the teams are pretty much eliminated. I mean, they just can't, too big of a hole to dig out of. So, yeah, I mean, Liberty's in a great shot, and CT, what do you think about that? You think, I guess, how much does this game Tuesday play an impact into Liberty's chances to not just host that game, but to just be in the game, in the conference championship game?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in reality, I would say that to just be in the game, this one doesn't have as much significance anymore. If we win, we'll be in it. But realistically, we only need to win 1 out of the last 3 to be in it, most likely. We hold the tiebreaker over New Mexico State. They're going to lose again. So they'll have 2 losses. We would have 2 losses if we only won 1 out of the last 3. And then we'd have a win over Louisiana Tech or UTEP. So if they somehow won out or something, then we'd still be good. So we only need to win 1 out of the last 3. But this one, as we've already said, really massive for home field advantage, which I think will be crucial in that game. Not many conferences have that in their conference championship. We also, I haven't seen the odds for the game yet, but I do know that we are the odds-on favorite at this point to win the conference. It was Western Kentucky before the season, and now we are the odds-on favorite. So I really like that. The one thing I will say is we talk about it a lot in college basketball, but it's tough to beat a really good team twice. So on one hand, winning this game, we get home field advantage. That's great. But then we have to play them and beat them again. Whereas if we somehow do lose, okay, then maybe that bodes well for us, even though we're on the road. So no matter what, I think we're in great shape. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but I really, really like our chances.
Yeah, if you said in August that we'd be 7-0 right now, it's Chadwell's first year. People online are like, the defense was terrible. This was still his first year. We're 7-0. Like, I would take 5-2 right now and be thrilled with how this season is going. We got a question on the screen, John. I'm going to pass that one over to you because I'm pretty sure he's hurt.
Yeah. Mark is asking, when is Liberty going to add Reese Smith from West Virginia, transfer wide receiver? Reese is on the team. He unfortunately suffered a season-ending knee injury during their summer. I think it was in July. He's lost for the year, unfortunately, and that's a big loss. I mean, I think we've kind of forgotten about it a little bit, but I thought he was going to be probably the team's leading receiver as far as targets and receptions and possibly yards, but he's out for the year. But what about the play of CJ Daniels? I mean, Zeke, what do you think about his play? He's really kind of taken that next leap and could be the next. Am I going too far to say he could be the next NFL wide receiver to come out of Liberty?
I don't think that's going too far. I mean, he's got all the ability, in my opinion, to be an NFL caliber wide receiver, but he's been huge because, I mean, we were kind of worried. A lot of Twitter users were worried about the depth of wide receiver coming into this year, but I mean, I'm not really worried about that anymore. The emergence of him and Treyon Sibley and others have been huge, and game-winning touchdown last night proved to be the game winner, and then obviously that huge game against New Mexico State. It really gives us a deep threat, and he also has the ability to kind of take a slant to the house. Like, he just has that kind of like unique ability to do a little bit of everything in the wide receiver room. And I mean, oh my goodness, against Sam Houston State, he made some unbelievable catches that I was like, there's no way he got a foot down, or there's no way he maintained possession. Then you look at the replay and it's like, oh dang, he did. I mean, he's just been huge for us. So it's been great to see. It gives us something extra than the run game, which is awesome.
No. So shifting gears real quick, we have a comment up on the screen about the defense struggling. And everyone said it was a tough week of practice. I had heard the same thing before Sam Houston State. So I think this very well could be a wake up. And Coach Chadwell said, hey, we need to practice better. And now it was not just a fluke against Sam Houston State, 2 weeks of below average practice. And now we're in that, all right, this happened twice now. We have this Tuesday coming up. This is the one that we have circled. I'm excited to hear how this team responds, how they get back into the groove of practicing well, because heard great things before Jacksonville State, and now we keep it moving. So, that was an interesting comment. Where'd that go? Oh, he got rid of it. Producer 3000 hit us with a little tease. But gentlemen, any other thoughts about last night's game, about this upcoming Tuesday? Let's finish off with maybe some predictions.
CT, start us off.
I'm glad we won. I'm really glad we won. Ultimately, when you can win those close games, because everybody's going to have games like that. You can't get around it. You just have to win them. And we're doing that, and we're doing it in season 1 with Chadwell. And I can't believe it. I'm thrilled with it. It's amazing. We easily could be 5-2 right now, and I would be happy, just like you said, Richie. Prediction for the game, I still think it will be high scoring. I mean, it is really tough to stop this Western Kentucky offense. I am really curious to see what the total is going to be. But I'm going to say 40-28 in favor of the Flames.
Oh,
Zeke?
I agree with you, CT. I mean, at this point, we just got to win. And I was happy to come out last night with the W. Like you said, I mean, we had over 50% roster turnover last year, new head coaching change, and to be 7-0 is incredible. I don't care what the strength of schedule is. This is an FBS conference, FBS schools. For the Western Kentucky game, I mean, this is the one we've all had circled on our calendars, been waiting for. It's a very interesting matchup to me because Middle Tennessee did do very well against our defense passing the ball, and that's what Western Kentucky likes to do. However, at the same time, I think we can do what we do best against them. They're 128th in the country in total defense. They're allowing over 203 rushing yards per game and over 436 yards per game. And here's just a fun stat I found. Austin Reed has thrown 142 more passing attempts than Caden Salter, but Caden Salter has 85 rushing attempts on the year, which is 42 more carries than Western Kentucky's top rusher. So basically, they're just going to pass the ball, and we like to run the ball all the time, and we've been able to assert our dominance, control the time of possession doing that, and I think that's the key to the game. We got to continue to control the clock, run well, and like we mentioned earlier, if we can get pressure on the quarterback, I trust our secondary to lock them down, but if we can get pressure on Reed, help him make a couple mistakes, I think we can pull it off. I'd say my prediction, it's going to be a barn burner for sure. Go 48-41 Liberty.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's hard to not predict the Flames to win, right? I mean, they found a way to do it, 7-0, whether it's been a blowout or a close game, and that's what's happened so far. So I can't not pick the Flames at this point in time. So now I reserve the right to change my score prediction based on what I'm saying because we're still less than 24 hours from the last game. But I'll go with Liberty 35, Western Kentucky 31 in a great game, Bowling Green. I'll be there. Looking forward to being traveling with the team again this week. But anyways, that's kind of what I'll go with. And again, I just think this team has, they know how to win. They have the belief that they're going to win. They have the confidence in themselves at an all-time high. How can it not be any higher? But again, Western Kentucky's a valid opponent. And they're not going to, especially after that loss, they're going to come out fired up and trying to pick up a win themselves on their home field. But Richie, what's your prediction? And then I think we got maybe a voicemail or two before we wrap up tonight.
Well, I think we should just go right into the voicemails because the vibes are high, the juju is great, and who cares what my prediction is? Because the last thing I want to do is become bulletin board material for anyone. I don't need players looking into cameras after the game going, that's Richie, and Richie long shots his face. We don't need to know my prediction. Right now, I think Western Kentucky wins. I think it's close. I just, it's one of those expect the worst and be thrilled at what happens after. It worries me that they are coming off of a loss. It worries me that we are going to Western Kentucky to play this game. I think there's just too many things that worries me. I would rather be wrong and be surprised. Richie's a hater. Fine, whatever. Again, I think this is a close game. We had this game at the beginning of the year. Most of us had this game as a loss. And there's not, yes, things have looked good. We run the ball well, but I just haven't seen enough for me to jump off of my original prediction.
Before we jump into the voicemail real quick, I just wanted to jump on what you said, Richie, which is a good point, having to go on the road. But my caveat to that is, and counterpoint to that is, Liberty's been better on the road so far this year. Look at what they did at FIU. I mean, that game wasn't even close. Buffalo, I mean, scored 55, and didn't they kneel on the ball inside the 10-yard line?
Yeah.
I mean, could have easily gone over 60. And then Jacksonville State, obviously the last, 3 quarters or so of that game was kind of domination. So this team has played really well on the road. Let's hope that continues at least one more week. But anyways, let's get into those voicemails.
What is up, friends over at the Sea of Red podcast? Sam Stone here. Big fan of the podcast. Very excited for this week's upcoming game between the undefeated Flames and Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. I'll be in attendance driving over from Louisville and very excited for it. My question I want to ask is this. Last time Liberty was in Western Kentucky playing, someone by the name of, what was his name? Oh, Malik Willis got the start when we didn't know who was going to be the quarterback, and he came out of nowhere, surprised us all, and obviously we all remember his name now. If you had to pick who was going to be the person who steps into Western Kentucky and puts their name on the map this week. So thanks so much. If you can answer that question, that would be awesome, and look forward to cheering on the Flames this week in Bowling Green.
Well, it's always great to hear from our main man, Sam Stone, legend, wherever he goes, slinging houses on the Bird app. He's great. So Sam asked, who's going to be the breakout player this week? I think it's a tough question because I think a lot of our breakout players have already made names for themselves. I feel like there's a lot more household names on this Liberty team than there were previously. So interested to hear what you guys have to say. So give me what you got, because I don't have a great answer for this one.
Zeke, lead us off.
I'm gonna go with James Joyner. He didn't really have like a breakout, I would say, last night, but he had a really good game, I thought. He came in, had some really good runs when Billy Lucas, he kind of got hurt there for a while, but he came back, so I assume he's all right. But, like I said earlier, Western Kentucky, they don't have a good rush defense. I think we're going to try to do what we do best with dominate with our offensive line, run the ball, and maybe he gets in there a few runs, makes some big plays, has a breakaway touchdown. But like you said, Richie, I mean, we've already had a lot of breakouts this year. We kind of know who our guys are. But, I'll go with James Joyner.
I was almost on the same exact thinking as you. I was honestly about to say Jointer, but I'll change it up, and I will go Aaron Bedgood instead. So we've known his name some already. He's honestly made some great moves, had some great plays, but look for him to get a little more involved in that rushing attack as well. Just as more games go on, legs are getting tired, especially for Cooley and Billy Lucas. So Joyner and Bedgood both, and then who knows, maybe he returns a kick for a touchdown or something. Like he almost had one if he didn't trip over his lead blocker. So I think Bedgood could make a big impact this game.
Yeah,
that would have been mine.
Yeah, I
would have
think
been mine.
Bedgood's a great option, and it feels like every time he touches the ball, especially in those kick returns, that he's about to break one. I always am watching him like, man, if he can just break one more tackle or get one more block, he's going to take one to the house. I think that's a good pick. It's hard to really pick somebody on offense because they've all kind of already had their breakouts. We're 8 games in, going into the 8th game of the season, and Salter, you can't really say him, right? I mean, he's already kind of established himself. Obviously, Cooley has done what he's done. CJ Daniels, even Elijah Smoot, who's dealing with a little bit of an injury and hasn't played much the last couple of weeks. He's kind of busted out. I think it was against Buffalo. Trayon Sibley had a big game against FIU, maybe one other. But I'm going to switch things up and go on the defensive side of the ball. We've been talking a lot this week in the last 24 hours or so about lack of pressure Liberty's been able to get. How about TJ Bush, the true freshman we've heard a lot from the coaching staff back in the summer and the spring, just what he's been able to do. He got in there, I believe, for a half a sack in the fourth quarter late last night. And, he's going to get better. He's just a true freshman. And like I said, he's now just his 8th game into his college career. So I'll say TJ Bush gets free and maybe gets a sack or two, a TFL or two, and maybe a forced fumble, something like that, just to cause some pressure on Austin Reed. That's something Liberty will need.
100%. I agree with all of those. Last thing before we get into our final voicemail, I think this is going to be that kind of game where one play is going to change the game. Whether it is, and a kick return or a punt return is a big factor in that. So I'm a big Bedgood fan. I think every time he's got the ball, he's electric. And I'm hopeful that he does get that opportunity to house one, because I do think it is going to come down to something like that. So, Producer 3000, roll the final voicemail.
Yeah, hey, my question is if PK, can't remember the last name, Naranquo from Abilene Christian, the transfer, if he was still on the team. Haven't seen much from him, but when I saw it was announced on social media that he was transferring in, after watching his highlight film, he looked like he could make a big impact. So just seeing if you guys had any details with that. And then also just want to get your thoughts on James Joyner. If you guys think, like myself, that he should get more touches. He really seemed to run pretty well in the last game against Middle Tennessee State. Appreciate you giving me some.
I'll take the Shike part. Transfer, like you mentioned there, linebacker from Abilene Christian. He is on the team. He played some last night. I think he had 1 or 2 snaps on defense, and he's really been a disappointment, if I had to say. And I think this coaching staff has really nailed almost all of their transfers that they brought in, even some of their recruits. I mean, they're all making contributions. Shike is maybe the only one that they've missed on, and he's just kind of buried on the depth chart a little bit. And even we've seen Tyron Dupree and Jerome Jolly kind of establish themselves there, and even the walk on slip of my name, Joe Carter has kind of come on as well. And even despite the transfer of Akil Washington midseason, Shike still can't really get onto the field, which has been a disappointment. I thought he was a guy that could be the best player at that linebacker spot and potentially lead the team in tackles. But the Jointer, why don't we go? Zach, you were on Jointer. So what do you think about Jointer? Should he get more carries?
I mean, I don't see a reason why not. He hasn't given us a reason not to. I don't believe he has any fumbles on the year. He's had limited touches. I think he got decent playing time and garbage time against Buffalo, and that was the first time I really remembered him before last night. But like I said, when Billy Lucas went down and went to the locker room for a little bit, he was banged up. Before he came back in, Joyner got some carries, and he was moving the chains and tough running, held on to the ball. Obviously, we know the talent he has, 4-star commitment to Arkansas, Power 5 back. He's got all the traits you would want in a running back. Our running back room is just solid, top to bottom. Any team in the conference would love to have any of those guys. And we got just a stable of great running backs. And I'm all for Jointer getting more carries, and I could definitely see him making an impact if he's given the opportunity against Western Kentucky.
Fumble. FIU fumbled.
I know we got to wrap this podcast up so we can go in here and watch these last 2 minutes and see what happens.
I know. I'm super excited to see it. So thank you so much to everyone who tuned in, whether you're watching us live, checking us out later. If you like, subscribe, whatever platform you are on, it is greatly appreciated. We're so excited that we get to talk about our favorite college football team with all the people here and all the people that are checking us out. Check us out on Twitter. You'll see us. If you're watching this, you probably already know that already. But thank you to Zeke for joining us live this evening. CT coming off a massive 4-1 with the locks, above 500 week with the rest of his picks. And the guy that knows it all. We could rattle off a player and he'll tell us every little bit about them, what they're doing. And that is super important to us and gives us a ton of knowledge when we're talking about the Flames. So thank you for checking us out. We're looking forward to the games on Saturday, the big game against Western Kentucky. I think we're going to do a Twitter live at some point.
Yeah, I think we're planning on doing a Twitter live following the game, maybe next Wednesday night. Me and Richie kind of recapping the win, and then because Liberty has the open date after that, so that'll kind of
the game, not the win. Don't.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, it's predestined at this point in time, right? So recapping the game at Western Kentucky. My apologies. And then recap that game, and then like I said, Liberty has the open date following that game, and we'll have another podcast prior to Louisiana Tech, which is homecoming.
Yes, super excited for that game and all the Liberty games. So thank you to everyone who tuned in to check us out. As always, stay hydrated, stay blessed, and stay fly. Go Flames. We'll see you next time.